Please welcome Angela Lansbury.
Thank you so much. I wanted to start out tonight by telling you about a phone call that I got from Bea. It was, I think it was sometime last summer. Well, the phone rang, and that inimitable voice came through the phone. Ange, you're not going to want to do this. Bea, I'm not going to do what? What are you talking about? Well, forget I ever mentioned it. I'll call you later. Well, at that moment, I somehow knew what this was about. You see, a little bird had told me that Bea was going to be inducted into the TV Hall of Fame, and she wanted me possibly to introduce her. I said, Bea, look, I think I know what you have in mind. And of course, I'll do it. Wait, what do you mean, you know? Well, how do you know? Well, that was the end of the conversation anyway. 2 weeks ago, this is really 2 weeks ago, when I was back in New York City, the phone rang. Are you sure you want to do this? Yes, Bea. Sweetheart, I sure hope this is what you had in mind. My friendship with Bea began back in the 60s, when we were playing best friends in the musical Mame on Broadway. Our big song together was, as you have just seen, Bosom Buddies. And I'm happy to say that it has remained our theme song, I think, as friends ever since. You know, the tendency here in Hollywood is to assume that all performers here in Hollywood become stars on the television screen because they were just hatched in TV land. Well, I can assure you that this is not true in the case of Beatrice Arthur. I, for one, can attest to the fact that my friend Bea, before her audacious entry into television, had a surprisingly varied and interesting career as an actress in the legitimate theater. She was born in New York City in well, I won't tell yours if you don't tell mine. All right already. Anyway, she was born in New York City, right? Yeah. And the family, her sister Kay and her other sister, moved to Cambridge, Maryland. In England, we say Maryland, you know, it's rather sweet. My father's telephone number was Maryland 2327. That was in the East End of London. Anyway, Bea amused her classmates at school with imitations of movie stars, particularly Mae West. Well, I can see that one. And she reached her full height of 5'9.5" by the time she was 12 years old. From her early school days, Bea collected memorabilia about Hollywood stars and secretly longed to be June Allison, the girl next door. She also was voted to be the wittiest girl in her class. So it was only natural that her next stop was to go to college and study to become a lab technician. But finally, after a spell of working in a hospital, she decided to head off to New York and take acting classes at the new school. Bea made her stage debut in the title role of Lysistrata. I can see that one too. And continued to study. Her fellow classmates included Harry Belafonte, Marlon Brando, Elaine Stritch, and for nearly 30 years, she was a staple in plays and theatrical reviews. One in particular was called the Shoestring Review. You remember that one, Bea, at the Cherry Lane with Dodie Goodman and Christopher Hewitt and Cheetah Chita Rivera. And in that show, Bea sang a song that was an absolute showstopper. Showstopper by Sheldon Harnick. And it was called Garbage. Bea stood up against a lamppost in a kind of a rather shiny raincoat and sang the song with completely deadpan. And Chita went flying all around the stage, kind of making all of the gestures that were illustrating the lyrics of the song. It was an enormous success. But Bea did very serious work as well. She did comedy, playing, as well as comedy. She played Lucy with enormous success in the Threepenny Opera with Lotte Lenya, who became her absolute idol at the Theatre de Lys. She also played Hesione in Heartbreak House, and she understood Tallulah Bankhead. Now, most people assume that she just popped up in television for the first time as Maude in the 70s, but that actually wasn't the case at all. In 1946, she sang in a show called Once Upon a Time, and during the 50s, she augmented her income by playing under 35 parts, under 5-line parts on TV shows of Steve Allen, Sid Caesar, I remember those, Jack Parr, Perry Como. But budding TV writer Norman Lear, who had been a fan of her stage work, invited her to come to Hollywood as a regular on the George Gobel Show. But she survived only 2 episodes on that program. And back to New York she went to star in an ill-fated off-Broadway show called Chic. Remember that one, Bea? I have to mention this because I love what the theater critic at that time, Walter Kerr, wrote about Bea in the Herald Tribune. Then there is Beatrice Arthur, a landslide of a soubrette, who has been seen here before in a fugitive review or 2, and who has a very firm, haughty way of informing you that the next line, no matter what it is going to be funny. Others may read lines hopefully, wistfully, or non-committantly, but Miss Arthur sets her lips, adjusts her eyes so that you can't quite avoid them, and oozes comic relief. Incidentally, Norman has already spoken about his adoration of Bea, but he once said to me that Bea Arthur made him laugh so hard, and throughout his being, he said she reached me in places that I didn't know existed. I felt it myself firsthand when I started rehearsing with Bea in Mame. What is so extraordinary about this woman on stage is, as an actress, she never allows the audience to shake her demeanor. She relies on her ability to hold their attention until she delivers the coup de grace, and when the roars of laughter come over the footlights, she never breaks character or loses focus, and never comments on a joke. That's something all of us comedians can take a lesson from. What a God-given gift indeed. The ability to touch the funny bone of generations of audiences, relieving the angst and the tension of our modern world. With a voice in her own inimitable terms of phrase, can have an audience gasping for breath with laughter. Bea left Mame after 1 year to spend time with her husband, the director Gene Saks, and their 2 sons, Matthew and Daniel, who are here tonight with Bea, to stay in their home in Bedford, New York. Bea always said that their sons were her greatest achievement. At that time, and one wonders, maybe, just maybe she watched a little television. One of the biggest hits happened to be All in the Family, a phenomenal show that changed television forever and was produced by Bea's old friend, Norman Lear. He hadn't forgotten Bea, and he called her to coax her to work in television, but she kept saying no, she didn't want to leave New York. And she told him she didn't want to work in television. Finally, he persuaded her to come to Hollywood to do a one-time guest spot in All in the Family, playing the part of Edith Bunker's cousin, liberal cousin. And then came Maude. The reception by audiences and network executives was so immense that Lear created a spin-off for her, which was immediately picked up as a series. We often forget now, with television breaking all boundaries of taste, just how groundbreaking Maude was. She was television's first feminist who fought and conquered such taboo and bold storylines such as race, gay rights, drugs, politics, and pornography. All subjects that, as one pundit said, would have today's typical network executive balled up in a corner cradling "Oh, Touched by an Angel" tapes. Bea herself said at the time, Maude's age, her outspokenness make her real. For the first time, a real person is coming on a TV screen. Well, Maude may have been a hit with the critics and the audiences, partially because it really pushed the envelope. One of the most controversial episodes, and there were many of them, was called Maude's Dilemma, in which the 47-year-old heroine discovered she was pregnant and after much debate decided to have an abortion. The episode scored 4th place in the ratings, and the final count of letters was 6-1 in favor of the subject. But protests from special interest groups resulted in the refusal of 32 CBS affiliates to air the rerun during the summer. In 1977, Bea won an Emmy for her role. All of this contributed to Bea becoming an overnight star. You know that one. Here's what she had to say about that, and I just love this. So what does it all mean? You become a popular TV personality, 15 million viewers weekly, top ratings. If you would have told me 10 years ago that I'd be doing this and being received like I am now, I'd say you're crazy. There are moments I'll be home cooking or something and it comes to me all at once and I can't believe it. Well, after 7 seasons, Maude went off the air, and as is the conventional wisdom in Hollywood, when you're the star of a hit series, lightning can't strike twice. Wrong. And then came Dorothy. With the Golden Girls, she was one of the few TV actors who got a second act. Most actors, if they're lucky, have one defining series. I know that one. She had 2. Golden Girls, which played at least 4 times a day, is, as you know, a show about something that would never have been done on network television today. A show about 4 middle-aged women. Another hit for Bea and another Emmy. And I hasten to add is today's enormously popular with a whole new generation of young people, including my own granddaughter, who wasn't even born when the show first started. One thing that's interesting about Bea is that with both Maude and with Golden Girls, she left the shows when she thought each show was at its peak. And in each case, the producers came to realize there was no show without Bea. But she wasn't finished with television. She made guest appearances on the animated Futurama as the voice of Fern Putter, who rules the Amazonian women. She received an Emmy nomination for her role as a babysitter on Malcolm in the Middle. She also showed up unexpectedly as Larry David's mother on Curb Your Enthusiasm. Since then, Bea has toured the country, the world actually, performing her one-woman show, Just Between Friends, with her good friend Billy Goldberg at the piano, an evening of songs and reminiscences. Her opening line, I want to talk to you about Lamb. That show took us back to her first love, the theater, back to Lotte Lenya, back to Tallulah Bankhead, and I'm honored to say, even me. And speaking of Bea and me, I think I can say in all honesty that we have enjoyed each other's company in so many ways above and beyond the make-believe world of theater and television. I know what a shy and retiring person she is at heart. Home and hearth and family and friends are the mainstays of her life. Oh, and did I mention that she was a gourmand of the first order and a superb cook? She taught me how to appreciate good sushi, and I taught her how to prune her roses. She is an activist and a caring woman who has stood shoulder to shoulder with those espousing humane treatment for all animals, from geese to the tiniest kittens to the elephants in the LA Zoo. Take a look now at the remarkable career. Bea said this about her career: "I've done everything except stag movies and rodeos." Well, tonight she can add one more notch to her belt. Ladies and gentlemen, it is my great honor to present the Academy of Television Arts and Sciences Hall of Fame Award to my beloved bosom buddy, Bea Arthur. Thank you for being my friend.
God, that was the most beautiful, longest. Oh, God. I love these things. They really find out how old you are, you know. And I am old. As a matter of fact, my formative years were spent doing imitations of Mae West, you know. Is that a pistol in your pocket, or are you just glad to see me? You like it? You want to see it again? No. I tell you, there's an old saying that to be a success in this business, you need two things: talent and luck. And I have been very, very lucky. I mean, right out of drama school, I was invited into the Actors Studio, you know, the high cathedral for gifted young actors destined to save American live theater. God, we were terrible snobs, terrible. I mean, we thought that movies were trash. And then, of course, when TV came along, that was even worse. And along came a young man named Norman Lear. Thank you, Norman, for proving to me that TV is not the pits. And thank you, Susan Harris and Tony Thomas and Paul Witt for corroborating that, or confirming, whatever the word is, to make sure that everyone knew it was not the pits. And I just want to thank all the members of the TV Academy for rewarding me with this great honor.
Donald.